whakarongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing out the hook of force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira hira whakarongo pi kari kari mai. Hare hare mai, o Taringa hare hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody. Gather up close everybody. Kani move that body. Kani move that body.
E ngā reo korohi, e ngā reo koroki, anei ngā reo, anei o māua o tira o mātou o ngai taringa, e whakapāho tēnei kia koutou. E te motu i te hiku o te ika ki te puku, ka titiro atau ki te tai rāwhiti, ki te kaimihi o te rā kia hiku rangi, ka huri ki te tai hau auru, ki te kai poroporo aki te rā, ara te maunga tito hea taranaki e tū mai rā. Whakawhiti i te mona raukawa, ki te waipou namu, kai oku nui, kai oku whakateitei, tēnā koutou, tēnā rawatu koutou, tēnā koutou.
Tēnā koutou katoa, Māori ora.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Do you know who Heta Kia Te Kani Te Uas? Oh, look him up.
Oh, yeah, I've heard definitely know the name.
Te Aitanga Mahi. Well, I got this recording of him and he goes, tēnā koutou katoa, katoa, katoa. And he does a tī pata pata. Cool. Yeah, hoi anō e te iwi, nau mai hoki mai, here we are coming at you from the bustling metropolis of Te Awamutu, beep, beep, under the auspices of Te Wānanga o Te Aroa, and we're back for another Tiringa of Taringa. We are at episode 100 and something. Yeah. 150 something. 156.
Thank you.
Tahi rau rima te kaumā ono. And e te iwi, he manuhiri tā māua o tira tā tātou. Ana no taringa, te māringa nui, kua whakai tēnei rangatira kia haere mai hei manuhiri mā māua ko Erika i te rā nei. Ani mau e taku miki kia koe, kia ora tuahine.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koe, tēnā kōrua. Tēnā kōrua. Me kare koe te mohi ana, e hapu ana. Taku tuahine, Erika. She was sharing a cool story about her swimming this morning.
Yes, getting very out of breath. E whitu wiki e toi ana, so not long to go, kōrere te wā.
Ka pai. Hoi no, hoki atu ki tā tātou manuhiri kua tae mai, tēnei rangatira, tēnei ringa rehe, no roto i ngā mahi toi, e rangi, kei te mihi ake, tēnā koe.
Tēnā kōrua, tēnā koutou.
Ka whiua ki a koe mo tētahi wā whakamohi o mai ki te iwi nei, ko wai koe, no whea koe, me rā kōrero katoa.
Ko Rangi Kipa tōku ingoa, ko au tētahi o ngā moka hauware o te maunga tito hera, i heke mai i ngā tātai i wakapapo te atiawa, nā tirarua, nā titama, ki te tauihu, i te motu nei o Taranaki, i heke mai a Taranaki iwi me te atiawa hoki. Orira, tēnā koutou.
Tēnā koe Rangi.
I've been a big fan of your mahi, Rangi.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, ever since I just shared with Rangi before that, I saw him working in action quite a few years ago now at WOMAD. Have you ever been to WOMAD?
No, I haven't.
It's really cool, really cool. World of Music, Art and Drama Festival down in Taranaki. And he was doing a taimoko on a lady who performed in a band who had a circular kind of scar on her arm. And you've done this really cool sun moko thing around it. It was really cool, and that has just stuck in my head ever since then. And then it's kind of embarrassing to admit this. Then I went home and I don't know if Google was around then, but I do remember.
Oh, wow. So it's like way back.
Looking you up and on the internet and seeing your resin works that were in a gallery over in New York, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
that's right.
Be some gallery somewhere around the world.
Somewhere around the world, and those were mind-blowing to me further because I'd never seen contemporary whakairo like that.
So what would have been the kiwaha you would have used in that context, in that situation?
Oh, nice.
I'm lining you up here. Yes, I know, eh?
Nā tōrehe, nā te rehe.
I wouldn't say nā tōrehe because there's a difference. I'll leave everybody to think about what that would be. Kōrero anō tērā. But you'd say nā te rehe. Anei te kiwaha. So ara te kiwaha e te iwi, nā te rehe. And I like your translation or interpretation you gave for that kiwaha, Erika. We were talking about it before. What's your take on nā te rehe?
You've got skills.
You got skills. Yeah. Something done by the skilled person. It's like, nā te rehe. You got skills.
Got skills. Could it be like, you're the man?
Yeah, but, yeah, it is. But you're acknowledging the skill, particularly people that work with their hands and on mahi toi.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the context I've heard that saying in, nā te rehe. And there's another kupu called a ringarehe, which is skilled hands. Yep. So whether it's whakairo, tāmoko, raranga, and all the types of raranga, whatu and tāniko, that's nā te rehe. You could use that, nā te rehe.
Yeah.
Rauangi, mixed media. Even actually, because you're a photographer. You're not just a photographer. He kai whakāhua rangatira koe, ko mahi he rangatira. And I would use that in that context too with the photographs you take. I'd say nā te rehe.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, anei te ringa rehe e te iwi. And, we'll probably do that to death through the kōrero today. And we've used the akene before, remember that one? So you could also say rehe akene. Yeah, rehe akene.
Yeah.
What's your translation of that one then?
Well, so I learned that rehe akene was like, kind of like you're at the pinnacle. Yeah. Whereas kei runga no atu, for instance, is like, that was good. That was all right. Yeah. And then rehe akene is like, whoa. Yeah,
it's that akene that's takes it to another taumata.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anei, ara te kiwaha e te iwi, nā te rehe, and had a bit of a recap on the rehe akene. So we're doing a toy series, and this is one we've been wanting to do for a while, is showcasing toy, kōrero mo te toy, me ngā āhuatanga katoa o te toy, e tai āhuatanga o te toy. And when we were thinking of who we could talk to about whakairo, we wanted to speak to somebody who had sort of moved in a few spaces in whakairo, and we just kept seeing Rangi Kipa. Ko koe te kanohi ki te ara e mātou. So I might just chuck it over to you, bro. Just ki te kōrero mai, tō tupu, what got you into whakairo, it's the whole thing.
Okay. Actually, what got me into whakairo was mucking around at school.
Yeah.
And so, I knew I wasn't dumb, but, in the third form, I was doing really good in things like science and maths and other things. And then as I obviously moved along and got to my fifth form years, I wasn't doing anything really. And Mum pulled me up and said, okay, you're not mucking around doing nothing. And so we went into trade, Māori Fairs.
Yeah.
Those days, Māori Fairs, trade training. Yeah. And, Māori trade training's played a significant role in our in the Māori landscape anyway over the last, I don't know, at least since my dad's time. I remember he went away to trade training school to Tikanga down in Christchurch. That's how I came about from his my mother down there. So went into New Plymouth to Māori Fairs, had a look at what they were offering, and there was a whakairo course there that was run in Waitangirua, in Porirua. And, the arts was one of my passions at school. Probably one of the few things I paid attention to right through. Yeah. And I applied, went down for an interview with my portfolio, and I was successful in being accepted to that program. And that was actually quite a major shock for me, moving from the country to a place like Porirua. And I found it, I found that whole process really difficult. I found Wellington really cold and bleak in those days. I'm talking about 1983 was when I went there. So that was at the same time when Kohanga Reo was really starting.
Oh, okay.
So, and if I look back to the other significant thing that was happening at the time that I was there was Te Māori was opening overseas in 82, 83. It came back in 84, I think. And that was a significant game changer in the domestic arts sector. In Aotearoa anyway, Pākehā people were the ones that were privileged with the, opportunity to influence the way in which people saw our arts. And up until Te Māori, they just really saw our arts as an extension of the way in which they saw us, which was, unsophisticated, crafty stuff, like of a Stone Age people. when in reality, when you look at all of our taonga that were chosen to go to Te Māori and the way in which overseas critics, when they compared our old people's taonga to the stuff from any other civilization, you know, like if you go to the Metropolitan Museum and you see the different galleries, Japanese galleries, the Hellenistic arts from Greek, you know, different periods, our stuff was as good as any of these.
Yeah.
And they wrote about it like that. And it forced critics and it forced the art industry in New Zealand to reorient and change their perspective and change their language. And because, you know, art is connected, or our ngā mea toi, you know, these things that are the symbols, because they're not just art, they're our languages, they're the symbols, our greatest symbols of wealth, the wealth and the prestige of our nations. And so when you look at our taonga, well, that's how our people see it. And so the opportunity for Pākehā people to, especially in Aotearoa, you look at these ofa, these taonga, and when you connect them to the people, you're forced to change the way in which you see the people. Why, you know, I've always been, you know, I've been driven to be involved. I mean, I sat back and, you know, when I was younger and became politicised, I suppose, you know, because the problem of, I suppose, for me anyway, I'll speak about myself, is that growing up in Taranaki, you've got these dual narratives. And I kind of felt like I was bipolar, because you have one narrative that talks about our connection, about who we are, about our connection to the whenua, and we can go around and see where all of our families lived on their respective lands. And then you've got this other narrative where you've got all these symbols on the land, you know, these plinths, these war memorials to the Pākehā soldiers who fought valiantly against Māori rebels. And so you get this really weird discourse going in your head, trying to reconcile the disparity between two different versions of this country. And so, you know, I figured out pretty early on that I didn't look Pākehā. I just think, you know, I was Māori, look Māori. You can't escape that, you know, when you look like that. And so I just figured, well, if that's where it's at, then that's where it's at. And you know, I'm just going to go hard. And I made a decision that I was going to make a contribution to our people's future. And I figured that probably the best contribution I could make was probably going to be in the arts. I mean, there were other places, but I just don't have the stomach for politics and various other things. So, and I could see the great benefit. I went to Waitangi in 1990, and I looked at what went on there. You know, we were part of the Kapa Waka project. So as all of our iwi were there with their respective wakas, that blew me away. You know, to see a couple of thousand Māori men, which I'd never witnessed, you know, that level of engagement and single-minded, putting themselves to a purpose. That whole revival, watching the revival of Wakataua and all of the tikanga and traditions and waka life, it clicked in my head then that actually this thing that we call colonisation doesn't have to be the death knell that we think it's going to be.
Kia ora.
And we can actually unwind this stuff. We don't have to accept that what has been delivered upon us is what has to be.
Yeah.
And so in witnessing the revival of waka, I looked and I thought, actually, if we look at and we draw a wheel and we write up all of these spokes and write down all of these taonga that we know have been disaffected by the colonial project,
Kia ora.
and that we can systematically identify the ones that are relevant to bring back and figure out how we're going to do it and restore them. Because in the process, if you look at that wheel and you start knocking spokes out of it, and you get to a point where the wheel doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it has a collapsing effect on all of the others. So if we systematically start restoring each of those tikanga, each of those practices, restoring and slowly putting back the jigsaw of our world, then what comes with that is well-being. What comes with that is prosperity. What comes with that is love, is grace, is all of the things that our people had before we went through this magnanimous and really unfortunate experience. But it doesn't have to be like that. Doesn't have to be like that. So I was really lucky when I enrolled to Waikato. I didn't have university entrance, so I applied under special admission, and that was a process where you basically had to write a letter say why you wanted to go to university and begin tertiary study. And so I did that. But that process is kind of slow. So that by the time I knew that I'd got accepted, it was actually time to turn up to university. I didn't have time to pre-enroll. And so I turned up. I was green. I mean, no one in my family, extended family, has ever been to university before, so I had no clue what I was doing. But I turned up to uni, and so that was also, 91 was also the same year that the government capped all the courses. Capped funding, which meant that universities capped their courses. So the Māori studies, nearly all of their papers were already full. And so I got a dean that was standing on the lines, pulled me over and said, "Oh, what are you looking at doing?" So I told him, and he pushed me into, he didn't push me, actually he guided me into some social science papers, and I loved it. So I still was able to take my real Māori papers, but I didn't end up taking a Māori major. I ended up doing social sciences, social anthropology major, and that was amazing for me, because it was like a really condensed kind of decol course. It really upskilled me in that sense, to be able to look at societies, how they operate, all different societies, from post-industrial right through to nomadic society. So I managed to develop a series of critical thinking, really, and figure out how to use my thinking and use the arts to be a part of that restoration process. So that's primarily what I've done since, I graduated in 94, and I've primarily been involved with the revival of customary art forms, and really trying to drag them into the present so that they are relevant and will also speak into the future, so that, our people will continue to be engaged with them and engaged with all of the kaupapa that are locked inside them. But, the real privilege for me was being introduced to some, really amazing people. Like I became involved with waka under Hotu Kerr, with Taonga Puro under Hirini Ma. And then, I went on to get involved with moko, like myself, Derek Lardelli and Te Ahi Manuka, and Te Rangi Kaihoro, Laurie Nicholas, and myself, kind of in 3 different parts of the country, kind of simultaneously kicking off the revival of moko, and it's amazing to see where that's got to.
Yeah.
But, I know for sure that, whilst those practitioners were interested in the revival of the art form, they knew exactly what they were doing and how that art form was going to influence the polity of our identity, and how it reaffirms things like connection to each other, connection back to the whenua, and all of that stuff that slowly rebuilds us as a nation that visibly looks Māori too. Because, it's one thing walking around with brown skin, is something else walking around with all of your indicators, all of your tongi, all of that stuff. There's something else different again.
Kia ora.
Yeah, so that's kind of, and I mean, I look at moko now, and I'm not doing anywhere near as much moko as what I used to, because I'm now looking for kind of like the next challenges, kind of going, okay, that's safe. What's next? Just trying to create new platforms so that the next generation can come in and supersede us.
Yeah. There was a hui, I can't remember which one it was, and engari reira koe tātou, and it was a Taonga Puoro hui, and I went along with Rangi Iria, and I te kōrero koutou mo te whakaora i ngā Taonga Puoro, and you likened the toi of ngā mahi a hene rauka tauri to this patient that was in the hospital bed, and this is a kōrero I've taken through life since that hui, which is be over 20 years ago now, or maybe just on 20 years. And anyway, you talked about that the Taonga Puoro was a tūroro, and it had all these life support systems going in, and it was on its way out. And then Hirini came along, and he had the what do you call these? Like the defibrillator.
Oh, yeah.
Like the electric things.
Yeah.
And he jolted it, and he jolted that tūroro, that patient, and woke it up, before it was, and revived it.
Defibrillator.
Yeah, that thing. The mihini whakahi ko manawa, I suppose. and that's what Hirini done. And then the wero you put out to everybody said, right, Hirini came along and done that, now what are we doing? So now that tūroro's revived, we don't need to come along now with another pair. So what are we doing? What are we doing now to get that tūroro out of bed, walking and living out of the hōhipera? And I've applied that whakaro from your kōrero that you gave it. It wasn't even, you were just sitting around having a cup of tea. That's what you were saying. And I've applied that kōrero to a lot of things that I've done in my short time on this earth. I always go back to thinking about, because you can apply that to a lot of things. And with you talking about the wheel, even now I'm thinking about some of those spokes in the wheel. What are some of those spokes? Taringa's been a big push with Rangi Mātāmua the past few years. That was definitely one of those spokes, and that's good now. It's amazing as I've got all these kei te rere aku whakaro. Yeah, he rawe.
I mean, the other thing is that you can grab one of those spokes and then start drawing rings around it and start looking at all of the components that make up the health of that one particular thing. And so that's really our challenge. And I think, I used to try and encourage people, because our biggest problem is, and was then 20 years ago, and is even probably even more relevant now, is that the few old people that we've got, a lot of the knowledge that they've got, they're not able a lot of the time to, there's no facility for them to sit down and waken that up. But that's what I try to encourage people to do, is to actually go and hang out with your old people and take them and do things that they used to do. Take them and support them to do things that they used to do when they were young, because they know stuff that they don't even know is super, super valuable.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and you're watching them picking something, and then you go, oh, what's that you're picking? And then they tell you whatever they know, and then they prepare it in a particular way, and you go, oh, what, who taught you that? Oh, and then all of a sudden you end up having a whakapapa to a practice that you didn't even know. So, hanging out with people, old people, especially our pāke, they've got a wealth of knowledge, but it's just, that's just what we used to do. And it's like, I can see now the connection between that and that. And I can, and that's why that part in that waiata, or in that karakia, or in that haka, or in that tauparapara connects to that. And that's our job, is to start trying to connect those things back up again.
Yeah, I got one of my karaua. I like to go pick him up every now and again, and we'll have a cup of tea, and then we just go for a drive around the rohe, and he just talks. We'll pull up, and he's just going to town. He keeps telling me, I don't know anything, boy. And then he'll be, talking about the ealing spots and, and what they used to do when they were young, and saying, blah, blah, whare was there, and blah, blah, whare. And e tino tika tō kōrero, he nui ngā kaumātua, kaore rātau i te mōhio, kare rānei rātau e whakapono ana he mōhiotanga o rātau.
Yeah.
They think, e tino rongo anau i te rāhuatanga i ngā kaumātua.
I learned a lesson about that when I was at Whare Wānanga Waikato, and one of the essays that I had to write was what customary knowledge do you still have or carry in your family? And, I didn't think I had anything, and I was really troubled over it. And because I was still learning to kōrero then, and my dad couldn't speak Māori, but from a young age, because I was the eldest, I was the one that always had to go with him when we were collecting kai or catching kai, and so I'd be holding the end of the net that had to go into the river. But it wasn't until I questioned why every second weekend I always drove back home here to Taranaki and went down to Waiongana here to the river where we spent so much of our spare time. And it actually wasn't spare; we were actually collecting kai. Because what I did was I looked down and I thought, shit, I know every inch of this piece of land, and of this river, and of our kawa, of our reefs where we go and get kai, and then I know how to prepare it, and I know how to cook it, and then I remembered, actually our job, my job and my sister's job, because she was a year younger than me, was to take these silver dishes that we had with all our kai that we'd pohat, and to take them over to our great uncles and great aunties. And then they would send us back with preserved jams and jellies. And I suddenly realised, shit, there's a whole system going on there that I didn't even know I was a participant in.
Yeah.
And I suddenly realised, right from the process of going out and collecting kai, where you got it, how you got it, how much you took, and then what you did at home and how you prepared it, and then the process of the social distribution and maintaining relationships, is like far out. And it was only then that I realised I actually had a lot of knowledge. I just didn't. I took it for granted.
Yeah.
So a lot of our people have that stuff. We just don't put value around it.
Ana.
Yeah.
Hoki ake rangi ki ngā mahi whakairo, ki o mahi whakairo. Taku pātai, at what point in your adventure, I roto i te whakairo, because it's still going, you know, adventures never end. They're ongoing, I believe. And where in there did you sort of have this philosophy of sort of going from the traditional into the contemporary per se, and your philosophies around that and your thinking around that?
That came to me really clearly when, after doing a couple of commissions for government departments, because, 30 years ago, there was really no market for Māori art. The only market for Māori art was working as a, trade carver, really carving houses, and it's not like our people are putting up houses every week. It's almost non-existent now. Back then, they were still putting up houses, but the other major opportunity really for those of us that were trained in the customary sense was to work on commissions for government departments. So I did one for the Housing Corp, and I did in my first year at varsity. That paid for my way through varsity that year. Did another one for Petra Corp. I did one each year actually, but I started to realise at the tūwhera, when we would have the unveiling of the work, I realised then that I had to explain everything. And I realised then that, I started to question myself as, why am I doing this when even our own people don't understand our own language anymore? It seemed to me to be self-defeating. It just didn't make sense. So whilst I was making generating income for me, there was no connection. There was no tangible, no real connection other than our people turning up going, oh yeah, that's really cool, but that served the institution. It didn't serve our people.
I know.
So I started to then wonder what the problem was. So if we've been so disaffected that we don't even understand our own visual languages again or anymore, that's a problem. And it's a problem even getting then a succession plan going, because if our people don't understand it, there's surely no reason to carry on doing it. So it was then that I had to revise my perspective, and even then, contemporary Māori art, those that were on the first wave, the Gordon Tovey lot, like Sandy and Cliff and that crew, Kura Te Warurewari, even then they were probably still struggling to push into that ground. But because I remember even when I was lecturing, and we had I think it was a major Māori arts conference at Massey, and it was probably around 99 or something like that. And I remember Hiri Numoko Mead, he'd not long finished his Whakairo book. And his proposition was that Māori art was only customary Māori art. And by that time, I truly abandoned that, because if our own people don't see it and don't have a relationship with it, then that can't be true. And if we look at even the tradition that we've inherited, that we call customary, we're carving with steel chisels. So even our tupuna, as soon as they were exposed to new technology, including when they came from Hawaii or ngā Hawaii to Aotearoa and became exposed to new timbers, and new stone, that offered them the opportunity to have a lot sharper edges. The development of rua kumara and their ability to store food for periods where they could have a lot more time for artistic development and artistic expression. Our arts exploded and went through a new revolution, and it was just a response to their environment and to their times. So a contemporary response to our environment and the times is what was called for. And, if you look at the last 30 years, it's been amazing. The explosion of Māori expressionism through not only customary, so-called customary, as well as contemporary. And, I think that those terms are really problematic to use, especially if you look at Māori concepts of time. They are just what they are. And we are. And I don't care for other people's definitions of who we are. We'll make their determination, and we'll make the same determination about our languages that we use to continue to keep communicating amongst ourselves and as an outward expression of who we are on this land, in this land.
Can you think of a project that has been really important to you or made like a huge impression on you and in the way you've worked as an artist?
Yeah. I mean, actually, all of the movements that I've been involved with, like Waka, I introduced Waka back here. The change is incremental, but now looking back over nearly 30 years, what's cool about it is it's become normalised.
Yeah.
And, the whole concept of mana moana, we now people are back on the water again and in a first-hand relationship with our moana, that's mana moana. Taonga puoro, same thing. And actually I kind of abandoned puoro because it wasn't progressive enough for me.
Yeah.
People are still pretty kind of stuck in this kind of zone.
Yeah. When
I actually think that we should be really kind of like way out here.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's another story. But moko's been really gratifying.
Yeah.
To see how it gives back to individuals and reasserts and reaffirms things that are really deeply hidden in us. I think that people will look back at the revival of moko for the social and cultural phenomenon that it's been and will continue to become, because the amazing thing about it is that it's actually, it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. It's pretty cool. Because, moko's drawn from the whenua. Moko's drawn from and reaffirms really fundamental things like identity and like connection. And, of course, the things that go with connection to whenua is roles and responsibilities. And so, any time that you sew back into the skin of our people those narratives, you can't erase those things. You can't erase those narratives anymore. They're sewn into your skin.
Yeah.
And when you sew them into your skin as an outward projection of a living thing that has sprung from this whenua, that's really deep.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time I don't actually talk about things like mataora and niwareka. I actually prefer to go back much deeper than that. Because when you think about our ngārahu and all of our inks, they were taken from whenua. They were taken and they were drawn from the ngahere.
Yeah.
And so are we. And so what you're doing is you're drawing those things when you talk about who you are, your tauparapara, your pepeha, all of those things that you're referencing, you've drawn from those and you've put them back into your skin for all to see that you are the living expression of your environment. In my mind, I know that our people, just the same as what they do with Mara and everything else, it's a natural thing. It's a natural thing for Indigenous peoples to reaffirm the connection to the thing that keeps them alive.
Yeah.
Now, so moko's a continued expression of that. These things that keep you alive, you actually sew them back into your skin so that they become part of you. That's amazing. That's as deep as you can go. So that's been really gratifying being part of that and seeing where that's going. And I love seeing the success of got different waves now of new practitioners coming along and pulling it into shape and pulling it into new places. It's amazing. But I think the latest thing that I've just done actually has been probably the thing that I'm most excited about, which is because about 5 years ago I started to look for new challenges because I was really happy about where moko's at.
Yeah.
And I started to think about our built environment. If you drive through Aotearoa, if you drive through these countrysides, you drive through Goa, you drive through Taranaki, you drive through Dunedin, Auckland, any other part of the world. And so I started to think about the invisibility of our people on our landscape, and especially in our built landscape.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about architecture, all of our assets like, motorways, bridges, all of the, civic structures, all of that sort of stuff. That's all the glue that holds the nation together. So I'm kind of been looking at that and kind of going, so how do we influence and change our built environment so that it actually reflects our values and reflects our people? Because if we're talking about tourism, you could come into Taranaki, drive around, and you think you're in bloody Mersey or somewhere in England somewhere.
Yeah.
Because all of the building codes, all of the building ideologies have been imported.
Yeah.
And you can tell a difference because if you go and look at our ones, they're different. But why are they different? So it's really obvious, Eurocentric bias to the way in which our cities have been laid out, the way in which they've been constructed, the building codes, all that sort of stuff. So I've just finished a major project. I started on it about 3 years ago, and that's the new Plymouth Airport Terminal.
Oh, cool.
And so I mean, this is just down the road. It's right next to the awa where my grandfather's buried. I'm a trustee of the Māori land right immediately over the fence on the runway. This fen was my heart. And but we found out that the council had commissioned a design for a new airport terminal. We only found this out because the design that had come back was really poor, and that the senior leadership team, no one liked it, and so they kicked up a stink about it, and that's how we heard about it. Now the backdrop to this is that our local hapu here, Whaketapu, they've had 2 blocks of land that have been confiscated off them. One was the old de Havilland aerodrome, which is just up the road. It's a line right next to the main highway here. And then that became unfit for purpose in the early 60s. And so what the Crown did was they then confiscated this coastal piece, which the present airport's on, which is on a massive stretch of kainga that run along the coastal area there. And not only that, but a majority of it was urupa because it's all sand there. And we estimate it's probably around 30,000 people there. Now, they confiscated that under the Public Works Act, or took it under the Public Works Act, early 60s, built a new airport, opened the year I was born in 66. So the Crown then gave the old airport land that they took off us to the council, and they sold it off as an industrial estate. Now, other people we talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Because the 2 significant sites, 2 big blocks of land. Anyhow, we found out about the design. We didn't had a meeting with the council, and the council said, well, you guys are like one of 20 special interest groups. And, our people that went in the day said, no, we are the special interest group. You take 2 blocks of land off us, both of them been alienated away from us. The land the airport's built on our land. We are the biggest shareholder in there. And so we basically let them know under no kind of uncertain terms that if they were going to try and build a new airport without our involvement, we were going to stop it. We'd do whatever it takes. Yeah. We've got nothing to lose anyway.
Yeah.
Other than not getting a plane to Wellington or something. And the problem with the council is they don't have any institutional memory. So they don't realise that they've been the author of and the recipient of 2 significant and tapu, really sacred pieces of land for our people. I mean, the land that the present airport's on is the land that Puketapu takes its name from. So, it was a source of great grief for our people. So we ended up having a 2-day wānanga with the council, with architects, with landscape designers and some independent observers. And we basically thrashed out over 2 days that we would be part of the project, that we would speak into the architecture of the building as well as the landscaping. And it ended up being about a 3.5-year project from the start of designing through conceptual design, developed to the detailed design, and then we spent the last 1.5 years doing all of the artworks in the building.
Wow!
But the cool thing about the building is that because the airport's a celestial terrestrial kaupapa, planes fly in from the sky and land, and then they take off again. We chose to pursue the thematic of tamarau no runga I te rangi.
Kia ora.
So the lower half of the building is rongo ueroa, and we chose to use this cerise kind of purpley pinkish colour. It's taken off the local hibi titirangi that is endemic to the site. And so her narrative runs through the building, and Tamarau's narrative runs so the roof line slopes up into the sky like this.
Yeah.
His is, we chose a colour for him being yellow because, of course, i o te rā. And so the 2 of them actually connect in the middle, and then in the middle of the building is a massive wall that goes from the roof down, and that's where her kōpū is, and ka puta mai awanuiarangi. Yeah, so the whole building is an expression of our creation narrative. And so when people fly into Taranaki, they now know that they're flying into Taranaki.
Yeah.
Iri ake na retinga kōrero o Puketapu o Te Atiawa. Yeah. So for me, that's a site-specific, honest expression of our social and cultural history, and I think that's what those buildings should be.
I love it.
And it's the same with hospital. At present, they're looking at doing a new wing on the hospital. So it's like, well, okay, how do we craft the hospital, the new hospital wing, so that it doesn't alienate our people. It's a science, actually.
Yeah.
The idea of spatial design, the way in which it either makes you feel like it invites you into a building or it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's that wairua.
We want them to feel welcome, but we also want them to be exposed to ourselves, our people. Now, the cool thing about that is we made sure out of the board, we got our hapu nominates one out of the 4 board members, and then we also secured a commercial platform. So, we're trying to sew in and make sure that we've got a commercial reality in there as well as a cultural reality.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm excited listening to you. I'm excited to drive to Auckland or Wellington and get a flight to Ngā Motu just so I can see the, and then I'll come and visit you as well. A whea tuwhera ai te tauranga wakarere rangi?
Ko tuwhera ke.
Ko tuwhera ke. Hika.
I mua I te COVID.
Nā whai anō.
Oh, yeah.
I've been pretty good at dodging flying to Wellington there, hoa.
Yeah.
I've been once, and it was a bit nini pā I runga I te plane. I was a bit awkward. Everyone was just like, heka, getting on the plane. I'm excited to see what happens in the space.
Yeah.
Mo te taha ki te, ki te waihanga whare. E tika e nui ngā kōrero, mo a tātou tūpuna me a rātou mahi, e roto I nā mahi toi. And in the real space, one of the things I say is our tūpuna never stop creating. So we have all these whakatauki that we use, and they're still pertinent to us as a people today, but our tūpuna never ever said to us, there's not anything that says that me mutu te waihanga. Ko te kōrero me tupu te waihanga.
Yeah.
So the creation process and everything to do with it is always growing. They didn't say, me mutu, you can't stop me, you need to stop making whakatauki. And e pēnei anō tēnei wāhanga mo te whakatū whare Māori nei te āhua. Kaua ko te āhua, nake engari ko te wairua.
Yeah, putting those cultural narratives into the designs of the building.
Yeah, and feeling them.
Yeah, feeling them.
He mea nui tera, we've talked about on Taringa, the kupu wairua and, the wairua you feel when you see something, when you go somewhere, when somebody says something, toi, kei roto te toi, te whare, he reo tō te toi. Koenei anō te tahi o kōrero I te rānei. He wairua anō tō te reo o te toi. O ngā mahi toi.
One of the biggest problems I had with that project was about a third of the way in, I realised, oh man, our people are going to come to open this building and to bless our stuff that's here, and then they're going to walk out, and then what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because down the road at our marae, it's bare.
Yeah, true.
So one of the things that, and the other thing I didn't want to do was to walk out and then our people feel hoha because we've got all of our rawa there. I've put all of my heart and soul into those things, and then we walk out and feel like we've left it for those people to look after. And so that's why we made sure that we had a commercial space in there because they were able to be present the whole time.
Kia ora.
But the other thing that I put in there was I put a toka maumahara right down by where you check in, so that and it's in front of the vista to the maunga. And immediately below it, about 2 meters down, is the toka mauri. Now, above is the toka maumahara, so that when people pass, our people can come in when they come back for tangi or that's where the raukawakawa goes on that toka. And then the other thing I did was I made the kōpū of Rongo Ueroa, where the two of them connect, and there's an effigy of this beautiful little wee, and it's a stunning piece, but a little whale tooth pakapakako that was found on the site. And so I got that out of the museum and I replicated it into an effigy about the speak.
Wow.
That sits in the middle of that wall, but I made that wall into a tuahu.
Yeah. Oh. Wow.
When our people come in and they come to leave the place, they use it as a ururu whenua.
Yeah. Miharo.
Yeah, because what we're doing then is that we're expressing to everyone that's in the building that we're making connection back to our sacred site again and that we own this.
I love it.
And you actually, so, that's what I said to our people, is that if you're going to complain about other people, if you don't want other people to own this building, then you have to come in and you have to demonstrate your ownership.
Ana.
You have to demonstrate your connection.
Yeah.
So I deliberately chose to make it a tuahu, so that when you come in, you put your uru, you put your alei or whatever around awa nui arangi.
Yeah.
And you hang it up, or you come and touch awa nui arangi, and you make connection to the site when you come in or when you leave.
Tēnā koe.
Because that's different, that's different. That's
Yeah. I gotta get there.
Yeah, no, I want to go there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had done an interview with Sandy Adset a couple of years ago now, and I asked him what his aspirations for the future of Toi Māori were. And yeah, one thing that he said is he wanted to see Māori culture have more influence on our architecture. So it's so cool to hear you talking about this, because thinking about that interview is exactly the kinds of things of what he aspired for Toi Māori. So on that note, what are your aspirations for the future of Toi Māori?
Hei whakatepe i ngā kōrero e rangi.
Yeah, well, I think the thing for me is I've been asked, my brother and I just flew down to Ngāti Tama to one of our iwi. They want us to do, a number of large public artworks on land that is significant. And I can do art any day, so that's not a challenge for me. The challenge for me that I then offered to them to pick up, is that it's no good just doing stuff like that and then putting it out there on a piece of whenua that's significant. What I'm interested in doing is doing whatever it is, our stuff, so that they become living spaces again.
Kia ora.
No good putting stamps on the ground if we're not actually going to use them as our referential points to shore ourselves up again and to turn around to face the world again. If it's just going to be, for adornment, I'm not really interested. I'm interested in making living spaces again. Our people become, dominate again our living spaces.
Tēnā koe.
Become alive again.
Yeah.
Because I think it's problematic looking at art and then going, how can that do this? Actually, no. That stuff there is supposed to be an outward expression of a community that's alive and well.
Yeah.
So if I'm ever doing any of this stuff, it's got to have a relationship back to doing, so that it ends up becoming this thing that goes like this, up. They're continuously shoring each other up. They're continuously reaffirming each other's well-being and mana.
Tēnā koe rangi, he nui ngā pirangi ki te tuhi kōrero I muri tēnei. Engari e mihi nui atu ana. He nui ngā takeaways.
Yeah.
Toi tēnei.
Yeah.
Engari tēnā koe e
thought-provoking kōrero there.
Yeah, whakahihiri nei ngā whakaaro.
Yeah.
E whakahihiri nei ngā whakaaro, e whakahihiko nei I te Māori, I o Māua Māori, o tira I ngā Māori o ngā kaiwhakarongo. E te tiro anō ai tātou ki te Māori o te toi. Me te hāngai, te wāhi rānei o taua Māori rā o ngā mahi toi, hei whakakite, hei whakawhenua, hei whakatūranga waiwai, hei mea whakapono hoki I te Māori. Ki tō tātou ao, ki o tātou whenua, ki o tātou maunga, ki o tātou awa, ki a tātou anō, ki o tātou moana, mērā mea katoa. E rere nui ana ngā mihi ki a koe. Ai, ka mātu I tēnā. Kua rangatira a Taringa I te rānei.
Nā te rehe.
Nā te rehe. Nō reira, e mihi nei ki a koe te rehe. Kia tau ngā tauwhirotanga ki runga ki a koe. Ki tō whānau o tira, ki tō iwi, me o mahi katoa, me o tūmanako katoa, kei mua I te aroaro. Tēnā koe.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you very much.
Rawe ngā kōrero ne?
Hard out. So real deep and meaningful. I liked how he said you can use toi to adorn things and that's all good.
Yeah.
But then it's just another level when you use toi to inform things.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, you get that wairua.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had lots of things going on because, I've spent a bit of time with Rangi. I met him through Tohunga Puoro, as I said. And he was sort of at that point actually then of sort of stepping away from Tohunga Puoro because he was like, this isn't going anywhere, sort of like doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's made a bit of a move, but needs to do a bit more. Maybe we'll leave that for when we have Taonga Pūro on the show to have a wānanga about.
Yeah.
So every time I'm in his space, or we share a space, I should say, he always says things, even when he's just in conversation, that, inspire me. And as I said, when I shared that story about the, charging the Taonga Pūro, that's something that I've applied to a lot of other things.
Yeah.
And now I want to go away and draw that wheel.
Yeah.
And put some spokes up, and so I have a personal my own personal wānanga. But I like the language of toi, which is something Māori talks about, and there was just so much in there. So that's the philosophy of toi Māori. Hoi anō, anei te waiata o te wiki e te iwi, how te waiata Erika?
So this week's waiata o te wiki is Tiki Tapu by none other than the great Rob Ruha.
Whakarongo mai.
Tapu te wero nei, pera hokira, kopu taki taki, pera hoki kopu awa. He titia nei tomata, ki te tohu titirere, ki te tifana. Te mata o rangi Ha mama kaua nā te waharu mogo Karere hupe, karere pi, karere te tapawaha Heke ano koe, karere popongia ngia Tongu popu kawai, katai ate ngutupu luae Hei ho tau tika, no raro henga, no te tatau o te pō Te tau ihu tangata he mata ora no taku tiki e no taku uhi e ko taku moko
Rob Ruha, he's a weaver as well, eh?
Oh, yeah.
He loves weaving, eh?
He's an amazing weaver.
Nā te rehe, he rehe.
Oi.
He ringa rehe.
He ringa rehe. We had a wānanga at the start of this year, actually, at our marae, and he taught a few of us how to extract muka. And it was really cool because he shared with us, like, the names for everything.
Yeah.
Like the shiny side of the flax, the dull side.
Cool.
The names for each process. I recorded it all on my GoPro. I need to go back and look at that footage.
Yes, you do. Yes, and keep practicing it.
Yeah.
Hey, like Rangi Kipa was saying, and it's not just the practicing of it, it's the living it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hara.
Yeah, so, and that was a cool waiata.
Yes.
But it's just, we had to talk about his mahi raranga to tie it in with our toy series. So, yeah, there you go with the iwi. So, yeah, that was the philosophy of toy. Yeah, because I had asked Rangi to talk about whakairo, but I knew, as I said, sharing space with him over the years when I've been lucky enough to, that it wouldn't just be about whakairo, because it can't just be about one thing. They're all tied in together. You know, pērā tō tātou ao Māori.
Well, yeah, that's what I was not wondering, but because he was originally trained in whakairo, and then he's gone into tāmoko, which are two different avenues, but still very the same.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all tied in together.
Hoi no e mihi atu ana kia koutou e te iwi, I whai taringa mai I tēnei hotaka o taringa, anei māua e mihi nei kia koutou, hei kona!
Hei kona!
Bit whakaronga pi kari kari, gather up close everybody buddy. Taringa, yeah, tahuri mai ki o, whakarongo ki te tangi a te kori mako, korero flowing out the hook of force, kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount, nā kona whakapiri mai ki te, kaupapa tino whakahira hira, whakarongo pi kari kari mai, hare mai, o taringa hare mai, we gotta gather up close everybody, gather up close everybody, kani move that body, kani move that body.
Taringa, he mea tuku nā te wānanga o Aotearoa, ā nā te māngai pāho I tautoko. To listen to more episodes, search for us on your podcast app and subscribe. Taringa, whakarongo mai.